I cannot give this episode a 10 out of 10 because it made me wait with bated breath for someone to say Alan Moraine, third chap, but it never happened. Move Along Home was a cinematic masterpiece and I will not look kindly on inferior product. I'm Gay Fesh and today we'll be talking Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 8, The Elysian Kingdom. But before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Rukiya may have read this storybook 100 times, but the rest of us haven't, so spoilers ahead. The Enterprise is having a peaceful mission cataloging a nebula while M'Benga is reading the same fairy tale to his daughter Rukiya, who, if you'll remember, is dying of an incurable disease, so M'Benga has been storing her in the transporter pattern buffer. He's been burning the candle at both ends and even does some old-fashioned Walter White-style chemistry looking for a treatment or a cure, but one of his experiments blows up in his face. Una tells him to get some rest. That doesn't last long though, because the Enterprise is suddenly stuck in the nebula, and when Ortegas tries to engage impulse engines, the ship shakes and she hits her head on her console. Once M'Benga arrives on the bridge, suddenly the crew has become characters from the fairy tale he was reading to his daughter. M'Benga is seemingly the only one aware of the change. This is some classic TOS silliness, and it's great to see all the actors play campy, silly fairy tale roles. M'Benga is the king, Pike is a cowardly advisor to him, Ortegas is his bodyguard and great with a sword. La'an, hilariously, is a prissy little princess who carries around a dog and has about 3 brain cells. Chapel is an apothecary, Spock is an untrustworthy sorcerer, Uhura is an evil rival queen who looks like the campiest Disney villain, Una is a forest ranger who's great with the bow, and Hammer is supposed to be a wizard, but his telepathic abilities were able to resist whatever is changing people on the ship. M'Benga and Hammer have to work together to play along with all the characters while trying to solve what happened on the ship. Hammer hams it up as a wizard while just making use of ship's technology as a flourish. He hypothesizes that the nebula they're in must have spontaneously developed consciousness and cites the concept of the Boltzmann brain, which is about as silly as the rest of the episode. The Boltzmann brain is a reductio ad absurdum argument that's basically the cosmological equivalent of last Thursdayism, the belief that the universe popped into being last Thursday with only the appearance of age and all memories were constructed whole cloth. Star Trek is allowed its silliness, we are, after all, in a fairy tale romp across the USS Enterprise, but there are enough godlike beings in the Trek universe that we don't need to throw in a joke cosmological argument as an actual explanation for it. When a part of the story plays out differently than from the book, M'Benga realizes that his daughter must have something to do with it, because it is a change to the story that she wanted to make. He checks the pattern buffer, but she's not in there. She was beamed out earlier, but he doesn't know where or who did it. But then he remembers she had wanted to see his quarters. So that's where he goes, and that's where she is. The nebula recognized in her a kindred spirit, someone who was alone and needed companionship, and turned the ship into her storybook so they could play together. It also cured her of her illness, but it tells M'Benga that the cure only works so long as Rukiya is nearby. If they leave, she will get sick again. Rukiya is offered the chance to join the nebula and transcend her physical body, which she agrees to, and M'Benga lets her, realizing that this is possibly the only way she'll ever get to live a life. She rematerializes mere moments later as an adult, having spent years from her perspective living with the nebula and letting M'Benga and the audience know that this was the right decision. I kinda get it. You can't really maintain that plotline between seasons because the actor is going to age like a human being who isn't held in a pattern buffer. It's bittersweet because he has to say goodbye to his daughter, but hey, it's Star Trek, he can always return to the nebula to visit her in the future. The spell is lifted and everyone returns to normal with no knowledge of what happened and all sensor logs for the last 5 hours wiped. M'Benga is the only one who remembers what happened, though he confides with Una about the events. So what did you think of the episode? Leave a comment below.
I'm glad Melissa Navia got plenty of screen time to ham it up as a storybook night, but this still doesn't count as an Ortegas episode because she wasn't playing herself. Are we gonna have to wait for season 2 to get one?
Be sure to like, subscribe, ring the bell, and share the video with your friends. Subscribe to my Patreon to get shouted out in future videos. Check out my Bandcamp for banging tunes, including all the tracks you heard in this video. Follow me on Twitter at GayestFesh, and don't forget to check out my podcast, The Rest of Both Worlds, where I go through Star Trek The Next Generation with a friend who's never seen it. Thank you to all my patrons, with a special shout out to Piftle Cakes and Renee Vorbeck. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you all in the next video.